Hey gamers, what's up? Today I want to talk about something I take very seriously as a collector, as a gamer, as an enthusiast of video game history. It's something I need to share because I'm really kind of tired of hearing people say these things. A lot of times I'll be online, especially recently with the passing of Mr. Satoru Iwata, and I'll see these comments, just little comments, from people who I think just don't know any better, and they say things like, well, what has Nintendo ever done to change the industry? Or Nintendo sucks, they've never done anything important, or they just do the same games over and over, that's all they do is Mario. And it just drives me insane, and I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, I think a lot of these people are just casual gamers or young gamers who don't know any better, and they weren't around for maybe Nintendo's heyday, maybe they weren't around to see the things Nintendo's done, or maybe they've just never paid attention to what Nintendo has done for the industry. So I'm going to answer those questions for you today. What has Nintendo done to improve the industry, to change the industry, to innovate the industry, and all the rest of the questions that these people may have? Well, first of all, I'd say the first time they changed the industry was probably when they brought the entire video game industry back from the dead after the video game market crash in 1983. When American retailers refused to sell home computers / game consoles, Nintendo was the one who made it happen with the NES, and it was a crashing success. This alone is a reason to show Nintendo respect, because without them, there's a good chance that the industry wouldn't be what it is today. Gaming as we know it, we owe to Nintendo. Nintendo also created the cross-design D-pad. This is the same D-pad, it's standard on controllers 33 years later. Every controller you've ever held was thanks to Nintendo, was designed by someone who took an idea from Nintendo. Nintendo did it first, and since then it has been an industry standard. They also innovated and laid the groundwork for the modern side-scroller and changed the face of gaming as a whole. Think of that. Think of what they've done. Nintendo did the original Super Mario Brothers, and they did side-scrollers before that. Donkey Kong was a side-scroller. And when Super Mario Brothers came out on the NES, it changed everything developers thought they knew about side-scrollers and set the industry as a whole on an entirely new course. These innovations were brought to us by Nintendo, and we all owe Nintendo a thanks for that. Also, Nintendo was the first to use a game save backup battery. They were the first company to make cartridge games that had a save feature. Now, we were going to see saves at some point in the future, but Nintendo did it first. And I think that just shows the type of innovation and the type of drive to try new things Nintendo has always had and always been willing to do first. Other companies may adopt these things later, but they only do it after Nintendo does it, and they see, oh, it worked, oh, it didn't work, and then they go based on that. Nintendo is daring, and that's one of the things I love about Nintendo. Nintendo was also the first hardware developer to package a controller with shoulder bumper buttons. Look at the original PlayStation controller, and what do you see? It's a Super Nintendo controller with handles and 2 more shoulder buttons. It's a dog bone shaped face with a D-pad, a diamond pattern button layout, start and select button, and shoulder buttons. It's taken directly from the Super Nintendo design. In fact, the Super Nintendo controller was the original prototype design for the PlayStation when it was in development as a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. The PlayStation itself wouldn't even exist today without Nintendo. Nintendo was also the first to package a controller with an analog thumbstick. They did it with the Nintendo 64. Now, Sega was right on their tail with the 3D pad, but they didn't package that with their system. Nintendo saw that the market needed this. They saw 3D gaming as the next big thing, and they thought ahead. They released a controller that was great for that style of gaming, and what happened? Not too long after, Sony answered back by adding analog sticks to their already very Nintendo designed controller, all because of Nintendo. Nintendo has also completely changed and ruled the handheld market for the last 26 years, destroying any competition that tried to step to them. Why is that, do you think? Because Nintendo innovated the handheld market. When the Atari Lynx came out, and it was too big and it was too bulky and it was a battery drainer, what did Nintendo do? They answered back by saying, you know what, power isn't everything. And they released the original Game Boy. It was smaller, it was more compact and actually pocketable. It didn't destroy battery life. It actually had a decent amount of time you could play before you had to replace batteries. And then shortly after, they did the Pocket, then the Color, and so on and so forth. And we've seen how that's gone. No one has been able to touch them in the market. They also created the folding design for the SP, which was, in my opinion, a bit of genius. That's an innovation. That's something they did. It protects the face of the system. It makes it more portable. It relieves you of the need for screen protectors or big bulky protective cases. Nintendo is genius when it comes to handhelds, and that's why they've ruled the market, and that's why Sony hasn't been able to touch them in recent years with the PSP or the PS Vita, even with their superior hardware. People love Nintendo because they do handhelds right. They were also the first company to have a handheld game console camera. As primitive as it was, the Game Boy camera was really one of the first times we ever took selfies as we know them now. Nintendo was also the first to offer a rumble feature for their controllers. They did that with the N64 as well. And soon thereafter, everyone followed suit. Nintendo was an early adopter of motion technology. Of course, not the first one to do it. I believe the first might have been the Stick, and that might be as far back as 82, 83. But Nintendo fostered it and worked on it until they released the Wii, which destroyed all competition in the 7th generation of gaming in both hardware sales and profits, as well as driving Sony and Microsoft into more development of motion tech themselves, which they use to this very day. Nintendo was also the first to use avatars, the Miis, on a home game console. Microsoft then jumped right on board with their avatar system, and Sony even tried it with their home feature for the PS3. Nintendo has also released some of the greatest video game franchises of all time over the longest period of time with the greatest amount of success and the most profit over the longest period of time. Nintendo did that. Mario, Zelda, Metroid, all of these games have been staples of video games and video game history, and they've always done it successfully. Nintendo doesn't turn around and release garbage games. They put quality games out, and they show respect to their franchises even after all these years. And in most cases, their innovations and willingness to introduce new ideas to the home game market were quickly adopted and implemented by their competition. So when people ask, what has Nintendo done to change the video game market, to innovate the video game market, to make gaming better for us today? That's not the question. The question is, what haven't they done? No one has done more to innovate the home video game market than Nintendo. And if you're a gamer alive today, if you play anything, I don't care if you're a casual gamer, a hardcore gamer, whatever the case may be, you owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to Nintendo. And that's all there is to it. That's all I have to say. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later.